Hello, I'm Wayne Maguire. Welcome to Property Success New Zealand, where each week I bring to you the real estate experts who will share with you their knowledge and insights. And this week we have Brad, a senior advisor from Macquarie Bank with insights on immigration and a changing market. Nick from the New Zealand Herald, who will explain that getting an editorial review is easier than you would think. And we go out to an exciting on-site auction to see what it is sold for. How well do you know the bones of your house? Well, Ian from the Moisture Detection Company will show you some core samples that may shock you. Do you know how much it'll cost to use a mortgage broker? Well, Daniel from Loan Market will surprise you with the answer. That's all on Property Success New Zealand today. So joining us now is Brad. Brad's a senior advisor at Macquarie Bank. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you, Wayne.
I think we're going to obviously do numbers here today, but firstly, can we just touch on and maybe explain to us the fundamentals of the New Zealand real estate market?
Well, what I think we've seen for a start, as prices becoming quite high, and that is causing some sort of a slowdown or plateauing to a point of people reaching the ability to afford. One of the big changes that I think took place 3 or 4 years ago was neutral interest rates coming from sort of 6% to 4% and perhaps even lower. Now, if you were on an income and we're going to be paying a mortgage off, instantly that assumption increases your affordability by about a third. And that's what the initial step in the housing market took place. Now interest rates are low and are probably going to stay low for much, much longer. However, they're probably not going a lot lower than what they are now. So from an affordability perspective, we may be sort of seeing that sort of equilibrium just being met right at the moment.
So you're saying it might be balancing out, and I guess that's what I'm seeing at the coalface also. Each week I'm talking to a lot of buyers and they're telling me now less shoes at the open home, so we're waiting to see what that translates to. So a bit of a change there.
Yes, well, we talk about an equilibrium, and the other side of the equation is supply and demand. And I think we're seeing a slight shift, both from a demand perspective and a supply perspective. So the council and the government have worked very hard at freeing up land, and there are going to be more developments coming on in the next 2 or 3 years, albeit capacity constraints holding some of that back. But on the demand side of the equation as well, one of the things that I think we've seen a slowdown in is Chinese buyers, and anecdotally, one of the there's obviously the changes that have been made at a legislative from a legislative perspective. However, the fallout in the Chinese share market over recent months may have actually impacted demand here as well as they've had to take check on their situations.
Interesting, isn't it? Because I think if we're a seller in the New Zealand market, we're very conscious of the New Zealand market. We're not even thinking about the Chinese share market and what may be happening to some of the buyers that are in the market. But obviously with Macquarie Bank, you're looking at all sorts of leads for the information that's coming in and then analysing that. Yeah,
well, that's right. And immigration is a big source of demand. And also population growth over time. So New Zealand has seen very, very strong immigration, and that's leading into population growth. But again, affordability comes to it when we are competing with cities globally in that respect, and as prices or affordability creeps up, then those buyers will look globally as to where they want to settle.
Yeah, it's a wider market for them, isn't it? Now here's the hard one, and crystal ball stuff. Any thoughts on the next sort of 6-12 months in the New Zealand real estate market? Is that a hard question to answer?
Well, it is. On one perspective, I think interest rates are going to stay low. I don't think there's a catalyst. Well, there's no catalyst really for interest rates to spike heavily from here. In fact, many forecasters out there are now saying that US 10-year Treasury yields, which a lot of interest rates are based on globally, are going to stay around current levels potentially for the next decade. So whilst we might see some change at the official cash rate level, we're probably not going to see change in the fixed rates or longer dated yield curves. So interest rates will stay low. But what we're going to see potentially is supply, and then obviously the demand side of the equation, immigration, very, very hard to predict. And as we've seen in China, where there's potential slowdown because of the share market fallout, it's very hard to predict what levels they run at.
So appreciate that, Brad, and that's a great summary on that. So maybe now, just looking forward over 6-12 months, interest rates may not be the factor that concerns us. It is watching offshore what happens and who's coming in. So it is crystal ball stuff, but I appreciate that, Brad, and I think that's some great information there for the market. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Thank you. Well, hi, Nick. This is Nick from the New Zealand Herald. Welcome. I think last time we had Andy in, and Andy spoke to us about the editorial content that goes into New Zealand homes, into the Herald homes. Now, that was very, very interesting, and I think we could drill even deeper in on that. Can you tell us a little bit more about the editorial and the value of the editorial?
Sure. So firstly, thanks for having me along today, Wayne. Yeah, editorial is certainly one of the best kept secrets of our Herald Homes product. I suppose what it does is it gives a third-party perspective on a home, on a vendor's homes. They're interviewed by a professional journalist, and professional photographers also take photos of the property.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because it is third party, and I guess if your editorial is a half page and my ad is a half page, written by the agent photos, they're going to take my ad with a grain of salt.
That's definitely right. Yeah, and look, we get time and time again testimonials from agents after they've had editorial run in our publications, whereby the amount of inquiry and people through their open homes the week after the editorials run just dramatically increases.
Fantastic. Okay, so that's the proof in the pudding, isn't it? Saying, hey, here's the measure we've watched, we've run this, and then we've seen more buyers, qualified buyers, I imagine, come to that property.
Yeah, and that's very important as well. It's not just numbers through the home; they are qualified buyers. Because they've read an editorial that's sort of focusing on why the vendors actually fell in love with the home. What they love about the place. The potential buyer can read that and get that real emotional connection to the home.
Do you think when your team's gone out to the property, the professionals who are doing this, they're getting more of a story about living there, and maybe the real estate people are still picking up just the bones of the house as such?
Absolutely right. So yeah, they'll sit down for a good hour with the vendors and just have a chat, wander around the home, and just really get into the thick of what makes that a special home. Obviously, the home or the vendors have to have an interesting side to it. You can't just have any property in as an editorial. But look, as long as it's, it might be architecturally stunning, a unique home, or it may be that the vendors are, a well-known local couple, or perhaps the house has never been on the market in 100 years and it's finally up for sale.
So a point of interest there so that it is chosen to be in there. And then your team's in there spending quite a bit of time. It's interesting also, and I love when I look at the photos in there, that they're actually action photos. And I've always been critical of salespeople with this, that we take a photo, say it's a swimming pool or a backyard, we show this big green patch, or we show the pool and nothing happening. Yet when I look at the editorial, the kids are running past, or the dog's blurred running across there, or the kids are in the pool. It's a real action shot, isn't it?
That's right, and they do try and have that as, rather than a staged shot, they'll say to the vendor, just do what you usually would be doing on a Saturday afternoon or morning, and more often than not, as you say, it's them sitting outside with the dog and a cup of tea or coffee.
Enjoying themselves. Now, can anybody get an editorial in? What's the process?
So it needs to come through a real estate agency in order for an editorial to run. So it's actually really simple, and a lot of agents don't even realise that there isn't a charge associated with it, as long as they've got an active campaign in the publication. They can run. All they need to do is submit that property in question, maybe a few photos and a brief description of the vendors, to their account manager or the editor of Herald Homes, and then depending on space and whether the editor likes the property in question, then it'll get run.
Then it runs.
That's right.
Fantastic, Nick. I really, really appreciate that. And I hope everybody picks up the great strength of those editorials. It is free, as long as you've already got your campaign there in the Herald. It's submitted through the agent. So every agent, if the property has a feature, should be trying to do that for every client they're selling for. And then you're going to see, as you said, you're going to see those buyers increase as they come through.
That's right.
Fantastic, Nick.
Hey,
Thank you very
Wayne.
much.
Cheers.
Cheers. And now we'll go to an auction we filmed just this week. It was a fantastic auction and we had a great result. So let's have a look at that now. So here we go. We're about to walk out. The front lawn is packed with people. It's going to be an exciting auction. Nice being on site, I think, isn't it? When we sit and talk to the vendor a day or 2 days before the auction, we get an indication of who we're expecting. You told me we'd have 7 buyers. How many have we got out there, Kenny?
I think we have all 7.
Very good, okay. Well, we'll see if they put their hand up. Maybe some won't. It might go past their price point. But I think we're going to have an exciting auction, and I think we're in the last 30 seconds, so we better get out there and start on time. So buyers, I'll take the first bid I see. If you're after that bid, I'll give you the chance to improve and bid on top. All right, buyers, in your hands then. Opening bidder offer, be brave. Oh, here we go, straight away, 500,000. At 500,000, I'll take a $25,000 rise. Easy at that 25, I've got it down the middle first. 525.50, it is now 75 the bid. At $575,000 now, 66 the bid. At 600,000 and a quarter on top, 25. At $845,000 now, this, call it 845,000. 50 bid now. 850, I've got it on the even. Look for your rise on that. Happy to take your 5 again. 850, I've got it there now. Don't miss me, buyers, at $850,000 now. First call, 5. Welcome in, sir. 55. I call away at $870,000 now. First call against us. Got it there now. First call. Second. Third and final. Are we all done? All silent? Woo. 5. 875. Boy, you're making me work. 875. We've got it there, sir. 875. Look for your rise on that. Ken, what are we doing at 875? We're on the market. We're now looking to sell away, buyers. Be very clear. Now bidding for the keys. We've got it there. I take any rise on that at $875,000 now. Look for your bid on top of that, sir. You know we're selling away now. First call at $875,000. Second call at $875,000. Are we all out? A double check. Oh, 76. 876. Take a half, take $500. 800, no problem at all, appreciate that, really do. At $876,000 now, at our time, we're selling away. I'll call 3 times. First call, second call, third and final, we're all done, all silent, we are going. We sell away, congratulations, well done. Okay, so there you go, great auction. So Ken, you said we had about 7 bidders out there, 6 of them put their hand up, which makes sense. There'd be certainly somebody who went past their price point. And then you would see something very interesting, which was we didn't have a pause on the auction. Now, even though we're at a level that was looking really strong, I still check with the salesperson, what are we doing? And in that case, Ken, you disappeared off to double check with the owner. Are they happy for us to be on the market, and are we now selling? Yeah?
Yeah, correct.
Fantastic. And obviously we've got written instructions sitting in behind that, but we double check with the owner as we go through. And that way you see the auction roll through. No pause, no time to stop and muck around. We just have to make decisions. And one lucky buyer who's sitting out there right now filling out the paperwork is very pleased with that. So well done, Ken. Great auction. I'm very pleased with that.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you. Well, it's my pleasure to welcome Ian back from the Moisture Detection Company. Ian, great to have you back. Last time, very, very interesting. We were looking at the probes that you use and where they go and that process. A question off the back of that, and that's one of your probes there. What are safe moisture levels? What are the moisture levels you're seeing in properties here in New Zealand?
Well, about 16% is what we're looking for. That's a safe moisture content. But obviously, if you're on the south side of the house, it'll be a bit more. If you're on the north side, it'll be drier because it's warmer and sun's on it.
Yep.
If it's downstairs, low on the ground line, obviously it's going to be a bit damper because that's where the ground is. Upstairs, drier.
Yes.
Summer, of course, it'll be even drier still. Winter, getting wetter, right? Things going on like that. And obviously, if the building's got a leak, then it's going to spike away from that. Some of the claddings, like polystyrene is the driest cladding.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, well, it's easiest to heat. Like if you live in a polystyrene house, you'll feel it's warmer.
Okay.
And that's because the wood's drier, so it's easier to heat, right? And it retains the heat better.
Yep.
But if you've got a fibre cement or Harditex or stucco house, they're generally the wettest because they've got what's called an absorbent cladding on them, which draws in the coldness and the dampness. And often we find 20s, 25% with those types of houses. and that's where the risk lies. If it's getting above 18%, that's where the risk is.
Then you're starting to pay attention. Isn't that interesting? And everybody thinks everything's static, but you know, north side, south side, upstairs, downstairs, different claddings, all has an impact, doesn't it?
Well, if we checked all our houses the day after Cyclone Bowler a few years ago, we would have condemned every house in New Zealand. And just last year, after the 4 months of summer, we wouldn't have had a problem.
Everything was fine. Yeah, absolutely. Nice and warm and nice and dry. Now, when the probe goes in, there's a byproduct, obviously, as you drill through, and I think that's really interesting. Can you share that with us?
Well, the history of all the rain events on the house is the condition of the timber, of course. Right. So if it's been wet, we'll have decay. If it's been dry, the timber's going to just be loving it. It's a nice environment for it.
We can see that now. These are the core samples, are they?
Yeah. So this is just a little example of a bit of bottom plate. So this is the probe that we've pulled out because this bit of timber got replaced. So as we drill through, we collect the drilling from the first half of the hole into one bag and the outside into a second bag. And that's the reason is that normally decay starts from the outside by the cladding, unless it's a laundry leak or something. But normally, outside rot is an outside problem. So just for the camera point of view, this is all the drillings out of one house.
Okay, so this file is one house. All the drillings, and each pocket there shows you there'll be 2 samples from one drill.
Yeah, right.
Okay, cool.
So what we can see here is that immediately the second hole drilled, the difference in the colour, like that's an orangey brown, that's brown rot. That's serious. That's structurally gone. If you opened that up, it would crumble up into your fingers.
It almost looks like a bag of cinnamon or something, doesn't it?
It is, yeah, well, it's sad for the owner because there's needs to be dealt with. So that's one form of rot. That's generally a form of rot for untreated timber.
Okay.
Now, I bought this house just for example because also in this house, and there's quite a few samples, we can flick through them, but this sample here, which is showing black timber, that's treated timber that's decaying. Now, when you have treated timber that decays, it sort of withstands the rot for quite a long time. So you get a lot of moulds and things. Now, when we come across this type of timber, it looks just like compost, which is a trachyderma, a different type of mould that finally destroys the wood. In the industry, it's called soft rot or wet rot, one of the wet rots. Now, so when we look at that, we basically say that's given up. So this is a little machine. It's a torsion device, and it's got a little torsion system inside it. So we put that into the same hole for the probe. It's the same diameter.
Okay.
And we hammer it into the fibres. And when we twist it, that gives us how strong the fibres are. So
gotcha. Makes sense.
Weight for weight, wood fibres are 3 times as strong as steel. Incredible.
Wow.
It's really incredible. You see pūtakawa trees extending out there and kids swing on it. Trying to build that as steel, no chance. Right? Anyway, but if the timber is in good condition, then you don't need to replace it.
Okay, then you say we're okay.
It might be rotten, but not rotten enough to say it warrants taking the cladding off to replace it. Now, if the outside, say 20 mils are rotten and it's a bracing sheet nailed from the outside, that's a bit of trouble.
Then we've got something. Okay.
If we understand all of those things, we can assess the condition of the house, because houses have all got a little bit of damage. They're all a bit war-torn. Every house leaks. So unless the house has got really, really good treatment, there's going to be some residual damage from those leaks.
I think that is fascinating, and Ian, we're going to have to get you back, because I think next we're going to have to look at what do you do once you've found this out. How do we then rectify it? How do you then treat that? So, Ian, are you happy to come back and join us?
Yes, we'll talk a bit more about this house too, because this particular house, there's some copper chrome arsenic or CCA framing that we identified as well. So this particular house has already been through a bit of a remediation process, but they still missed a few things. And that's because they didn't do this type of assessment.
Let's hold that file and we'll come back to that one.
Good.
Ian, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, joining me now is Daniel from Loan Market. Welcome, Daniel.
Thanks, mate.
Daniel, really interesting for me. I think a lot of people still believe that they have a personal relationship with a bank and they just go in and out of one bank. But as a broker, why should somebody consider actually using a broker, using yourself, as opposed to that one-on-one relationship with their bank?
Yeah, absolutely. The whole thing is a broker provides a professional level of advice and service, which can be a little bit devoid now in the banking sector. And also what we do is provide a very competitive element to the whole process. And, it's really important. I mean, a 0.2% differential on an interest rate, for example, say on a $500,000 loan over a 30-year period, would actually sort of add $23,000 to the to that loan, or actually could save a borrower like 2 years worth of repayments. So really important to get the best deal.
And that's a big chunk of change, and maybe that's invisible if they're just in through one bank and not looking around. And it's probably pretty hard for the individual to have time to analyse between the banks. And you're looking at not just one lender, you're going out to a number of them for each client?
Yeah, so what we offer is a very professional technology-driven service. So fundamentally, we can put a number of deals with banks all at once, very fast and very effectively. And what that does is it adds a competitive element. And therefore, the banks are wanting to kind of beat each other in the market to make sure they're giving you the best possible deal. So we keep them honest, Wayne.
So they're almost bidding for your business or your
Absolutely.
customers' business as they're coming through.
That's right.
Yep. At this point, I think this is an interesting time to ask, so how much is that going to cost the buyer to come now and deal with you as opposed to going straight to the bank?
Well, the beauty of it is it's actually free because the bank pays us for our time as a provider. The bank simply sees us as another channel and therefore they pay a commission to us. Now, we're not really interested which bank you go with. We cover all the banks, so we can equally put you with the red one or the blue one or the yellow one or whichever one you want. But the key thing is to get the right product and the right service.
Good point, isn't it? So they are paying you, rightly so. That's very transparent. But again, you'll look at them and say, which has got the best deal now for the customer?
That is correct. So we work to make sure the customer has the best deal to fit their situation, because we are professional advisors, and also making sure that they get the best possible outcome, whether it be in terms of cashback, which the banks are very popular of, or whether it's in fact an interest differential.
Now, I'm interested in timing, and I remember being at an auction and I put the hammer down and then I saw the buyer go straight to Daniel, and when I caught up a little while later, it was quite obvious the buyer had bid and gone higher than whatever their limit was, so you were obviously scrambling to say, I'll find you some more money.
I remember that, yes.
I was happy at my end.
Yes.
And I was happy also that they were in good hands and they could find that money they needed. When should a buyer be talking to you, Daniel?
Well, I think right at the beginning, when they first start thinking about looking for a home, we can do all that legwork with them, check how much they're going to be able to afford, and get a pre-approval in place. And then we can work with them and handle their application from beginning to end. But equally important is that situation where when the hammer drops, when they've actually bought something, don't just ignore the fact that you've got a pre-approval. That's the time to possibly go back to your mortgage broker or to visit a mortgage broker, because at that point it's game on from our perspective. That's when we really talk to the banks and we can get a really good deal put in place. People have got a lot of power at that point in time.
Absolutely. I really, really respect that. And as I've watched Daniel do his business, and you're fantastic at it, that was when I realised you need to be pre-approved. But then at the point of sale, now when you are almost the cash buyer looking at the bank, they are very keen to do business with you. So look again, see if it's sharper, see if there's a better deal.
Absolutely, Wayne. And people miss out because they say, well, I'm pre-approved with the bank, and they don't bother to revisit that at that point in time. And that's really where we do have the greatest savings, is where we've got a live deal, someone's ready to go, the banks are really keen to get involved.
Fantastic. Daniel, we're going to meet again and talk more, but I think that's fantastic information. And buyers, I would say, look, definitely engage a broker. And Daniel, you are great at what you do.
Wayne.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you for being with us at Property Success New Zealand. I'm Wayne Maguire, and next time again I'll have more experts for you with their advice on how to buy and sell and have property success here in New Zealand.